That's an incredibly loaded question, too. I mean, define what you mean by best way you've killed somebody.
Welcome to the Two Authors Chat Show, an entertaining podcast with two best-selling authors connecting readers with an eclectic array of distinguished guests through lively conversation and interviews. Hosted by mystery, suspense and thriller writers Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Hope everyone's doing great today. We got here with Mr. Nick. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Hey, that autumn just came to Florida.
Autumn? What, a leaf fell?
Yeah.
When the palm fronds are down?
No, it's been like 90 degrees, right? And, it's been Florida. And then all of a sudden today, it's like 68 degrees. It is gorgeous outside. It's low humidity, 68 degrees, sun's been shining. It's gorgeous. So I'm doing good.
Well, hey, we have a listener question.
We do, from Miss Shelby Lyle from Memphis, Tennessee.
I've been there.
Yeah, I've been to Memphis. Every day you go to Memphis. All right, the question is, if you could solve one mystery in the world, what would it be?
Oh, solve one mystery in the world. How about the mystery of D.B. Cooper? You know D.B. Cooper, right? He hijacked a plane back in the 70s, and when he got the whatever the $1 million was and bailed out, and nobody ever saw him again.
Oh, I remember that now.
Yeah.
He hijacked a plane in air.
They landed it. He bring the ransom. He take off, and somewhere over wherever they are, I think they're in Washington State, but I could be wrong. But he bailed out with a parachute.
We're fiction writers. It's okay.
That's right. I'm making it up. So, but he bails out with the parachute and the ransom, and nobody ever heard from him again.
What kind of plane was it?
I don't know. A jet airline, 747.
You can't just open the doors in the air. I want to know details now.
Oh,
it just doesn't.
I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't prepared, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a movie about it. I mean, yeah.
Did they solve it in the movie?
They didn't solve it, period. So I don't think that,
I wonder if they just made up an ending for the movie. Hollywood does that sort of thing.
He got away, and he jumped out, and it was a 727, Boeing 727, hijacked Northwest Orient Airlines. It was over Seattle, Washington. It was from Portland to Oregon. He demanded $200,000, which...
That's pretty Austin Powers. $1 million.
Well, okay, but this was 1971, so that would have been equivalent to $1.4 million today.
Still.
That's still a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but...
carry it. It's $200,000. I mean, you got to carry it with you. So, and then he requested 4 parachutes when they landed in Seattle. He released passengers in Seattle, but kept the flight crew. They took off again. He was heading to Mexico City, refueled in Reno, and 30 minutes after taking off, he jumps out. Nobody knows where he is.
I don't know. There's a lot of questions I have about this.
Well, it's
that's probably why it's a mystery.
Everybody, it's a mystery. So
that's probably why.
Wonder where he went to. He got away. It's one of those. As fiction writers, we always like the perfect crime, and so if you can find a perfect crime, somebody gets away. It's kind of cool. I mean, how about you? Do you have any cool mysteries?
Amelia Earhart. It's got to be Amelia Earhart. Well, it's obviously a mystery, and there's lots of people who have come up with ideas and everything else of where it was. But yeah, I'd like to know that. I think a lot of people would like to know where she ended up. I'm pretty sure she didn't make it. That's. I think that's pretty true.
She didn't make it. Well, maybe she might have. She just landed and screw it. I'm not telling anybody where I am. So.
Yeah, I'm just hiding out. I'm done with this publicity stunt business.
Somebody said that they thought they found remains on an island. It might have been her or something like that.
Yeah, I watched this documentary thing that claimed that they were getting to the bottom of it all. They didn't get to the bottom of anything. They
never do.
They filmed an hour documentary with a bunch of really, I don't know what it was. They found some little bit of wreckage that was, it's right in an area that was very active in the Pacific in World War II. So it's yeah, I don't think we've got it figured out.
No, probably not. But she probably landed in the middle of the ocean and sank.
Unfortunately. All right, moving on. Our guest this week is...
Quite a mystery, actually.
Well, until you tell us, yeah, it's a mystery.
All right, our guest today is Armand Rosamilia, who is a very, very prolific writer. He has written, I don't know how many books. It's like
over 200
stuff
on publications. Some of that's anthologies and box sets, but it's nuts how much he's written. And he writes crime thrillers, and I've read his some of his crime thriller series. And they're fantastic.
And
Shakedown. The Shakedown series are fantastic. They're really good. Yep. And then his Dirty Deeds series. And then he writes horror, which I do not read.
I think writing horror has to be very tough, because, if you're watching horror, it's always the jump scares, like, oh, here comes Freddy. But in a book, how do jump scares are kind of harder to do. So,
yeah
in my opinion.
I'm sure it's really hard to write.
It could be a pop-up book.
But you don't tell anybody.
Turn the page and it pops up at you.
Just all of a sudden pops up out of nowhere.
Yeah. It's hard on an ebook, though, but it's still something to think about. So, anyway, Armand.
Armand's on our show, so let's talk to him because he's far more sensible than we are.
Welcome to the show, Armand. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. I love your backdrop, by the way, which is a great way of starting the conversation on a podcast that people only get to listen to. But Armand has
I find you very sexy today, Armand, and I'm just sure everybody should be looking at you.
Should I put the shirt on or leave the shirt on?
Yeah, Armand is naked, people, just so you know. Armand, tell us a little bit about how you got into the business of writing and what your path has been.
It started when I was 12. And I read my first Dean Koontz book. And for me, that was it. My mother still today is a huge horror reader and a huge, thriller reader and stuff. And I started reading all of her books. She had thousands and thousands of paperbacks. And that was it for me. Dean Koontz was it. She's a huge Stephen King fan. I am not. So that's every Christmas I give her a Dean Koontz book. She gives me a Stephen King book. I'm sure we don't read the other person's gift every year, but still. And that was it. 12 years old, I wanted to become a writer. You do those things in like 5th and 6th grade where what do you want to be when you grow up? And everybody wants to be, a quarterback and a fireman and all this. I wanted to be a writer. And that's what I wrote. And my mother always says you should have written, you wanted to be a rich and famous author. Maybe that
That's mom's right there for you. Yeah. Like, way to be a writer. You could have been better.
So, was it your first job? I mean, did you just start straight into it?
No, I've had a million jobs since then. My first story I ever got released was 1988. That was my senior year in high school. And it was a little side-stapled Xerox little zine. I had a story in that called Beastie. And it's actually, that story is actually in my first short story collection. And it was the very first thing I ever gotten released. So 35 years now I've been a published author. And I had a lot of years where I did not write due to life stuff. I had a lot of crappy jobs, 20 years of retail management. But it was great because, when you have all those awful customers and all those awful people that work for you and work above you, and then you get to kill them all.
Yeah, kill them all in your books.
Murder them in your books, yep.
You just like, I needed a really awful person to kill. Let me think of somebody from my past.
That is very fun. I think we all do that. We've all killed a few people that we didn't like.
Plus having 2 ex-wives also, that I've killed them several dozen times each.
Fair. That's, you can do it over and over. If you do it in real life, it's only once. So
right, yeah. That's
like the gift that keeps on giving. So
yeah. So how long have you been full-time writing?
This would be my 13th year able to make a living writing full-time.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
That's impressive. Yeah.
And you are to say prolific is an understatement for you. You write books so fast and so much. I mean, you're on Stitch and TikTok, and I'm sure you probably have an OnlyFans that's Armand fans. That's
I do about 450,000 words a year is what I've been averaging for about the last 10 years or so.
Wow.
So that's a lot of books, and horror books are shorter. Horror books are 50,000 words. Where thrillers are 63,000 is my sweet spot. So I read a ton of short stories. The one thing that I really picked up, all three of us were at NINC, which was awesome in Tampa. One thing I really picked off was my brand is so off because I wrote so many horror things and so many nonfiction things and so many supernatural things and so many, everything, pretty much everything but romance has my name on it. And so I really came home and I pulled, I had 228 releases on Amazon. That's including it being in anthologies. That's, everything. Publishers have my stuff. And I went through that list and I was like, let me pull up the last year's sales and look at that third, which is about half of my list is like 3-5 sales for the year, whatever. And stuff that's not on brand. And I just went, oh, you know what? And I basically just took them all out of print. I just immediately wiped out over 100 releases that I said, I'm not making money on this. It's not in brand. It's confusing for the reader. And my hardcore readers so far over the last 13 years has purchased all of those books. So I'm really just focusing on the crime thriller stuff now. And that's really, where it's going to be. I still have, I think, 3 horror books that I'm under contract to write in the next year. So those will come out and then that'll be it. Even my short stories, I've been just writing crime thrillers. Like you said, Doug, I write live on Twitch 3 or 4 days a week. And now I'm not writing chapters of books. Now I'm writing, crime thriller.
How do you switch gears between the genres? I mean, there's a connection between every form of writing, right? Writing novels, but thriller to horror. I mean, there's a big line in the sand that you cross. I mean, in a thriller, they sneak by in the dark by the shed that's got the chainsaws in it. And the horror movie, they go inside and start cutting people up. So how do you switch gears? Do you find yourself in the middle of a thriller, like all of a sudden the guy's got an axe in his hand and you're writing this thing and you're like, oh, no, wait a second. Better back out of that.
I think mentally I get into it. So now I might write 2 or 3 different things in a day. So I might start a horror short story. In the afternoon, I might write a chapter of a thriller. And then later at night, I might write supernatural or do a nonfiction or something. But it's just mentally I need the break between. And, I do other stuff that's not writing. I'll do a lot of promotion. I do, podcast interviews. I do different things. And in the back of my mind, I already know what I'm going to work on next. And it's really that, I think in the beginning, when I wrote so much horror, and when I first started doing crime thrillers, which was Dirty Deeds was the first one in 2015, I wrote that. It was really tough when I'm writing all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, no, wait a minute. Not everyone can die in this chapter. We can't have some crazy axe-wielding maniac, so you really have to focus on what the story is. And I kind of set ground rules when I start, especially a new series. I say, how much violence, how much sex, how much profanity? And those are my 3 basic things. And with the horror, there's a lot of all that. And with the crime thriller, there's hardly any of that. I want, a 12-year-old to be able to pick up, one of my crime thriller books and read it. And yeah, there's going to be a death in it, but it's not 5 pages of hacking, limbs off and stuff.
So like with all this hacking limbs off, are you ever writing along and you write something you're like, oh, that just creeped me out. Like that's too much for me.
Yeah. In my 20s, I wrote a lot of really crazy over the top stuff. And I think when I had kids, when I started, and not even that I was doing violence towards kids, but just I was like, do I really want my kids to read this? My zombies, I won a lot of awards with it. I mean, it's a 9-book series, but the zombies don't just want to bite you. They still can get aroused.
Oh,
so nice. While I don't put that necessarily any of those scenes in the book, but I was at a convention once and my daughter was there, my youngest, and I think she was like 16 or 17 then. And some guy came up to the table and he's looking, he's like, oh, this is the Rapey Zombies book I was telling you about. And I'm like,
no, dude, zombies.
Shut up. Just buy here, give me your $10, nice. Buy the book, but go away.
Okay. I've got a sidebar to that then. So have you ever killed somebody in a book that you're like, that's your favorite way you've ever done it? Or what's the best way you've ever killed somebody in a book?
So the problem with writing almost 500,000 words a year, you forget a lot of that. Like they're not my babies, you know. I don't like once it's written and it goes to the editor I most of the time I don't even remember the book. I mean,
so it was the ex-wives. One of the ex-wives.
Yeah, I mean,
is probably
one of those is probably got to be the best because I've had some good creative things though that the way people have died.
That's an incredibly loaded question, too. I mean, define what you mean by best way you've killed somebody. Generally speaking, society frowns upon the act of killing people.
Well, you know, it's weird. I was just in a writer's group, and one of the ladies goes, well, I tried to Google how to cover up a dead body smell, and I couldn't find it. I said, well, hold on. You're not searching right. Let me help. And then, bam, I've got it.
Switching gears a little bit, you are a veteran of podcasting. And you did a great podcast, The Mando Method, right? Which ran for how many years and how many shows? Like a lot.
So The Mando Method was 333 episodes. So it was 6 years, almost 7 years.
Dang.
And
wow.
Before that, and kind of running concurrently for a bit, my first one was Armcast Podcast, where I interviewed authors. And that went 400 episodes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I was on the radio. I was on an AM station here in Florida for a couple of years, and then they switched to FM, and I did that for another year, and then the drive got too much. I got old. My eyes, you know, I have night blindness driving at 2:00 in the morning, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to do something else. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to do podcasting. I think that was 2013 that I started doing that. At one
That's
point,
pretty early on in the podcasting world, isn't it?
There was not a lot out there. Libsyn was like the only one that, you know, had a system in place. They were like one of the first, if not the first. So I really jumped on and started then. And there wasn't a ton of there was podcasts, but not a ton like there are now. And it was fun. It was fun because I could, you know, I could sit and do it from home, and I was interviewing and talking to. First, it was all just horror authors. You know, the original was Armcast Podcast, Dead Sexy Horror Podcast. And then I just changed it to Dead Sexy Podcast because I started interviewing other authors. I wanted to learn not just about, you know, the handful of horror people that I know. You know, I wanted to learn from everybody out there. And it was a lot of fun. So I also did a baseball podcast with a couple other guys. I basically showed them how to set it up, and they asked me to guest on it every episode. So I would talk baseball with them. So I've probably put together about 1,000 podcasts in my time.
My gosh. We got to thank you a ton for helping us out when we came up with the idea of doing this. So the two of us would like to thank you very much for all the help you gave us in setting this up. Anyone that's listened to this show would like to hit you with a baseball bat.
Everybody's like,
they've been subjected to what we've done with the show since you suggested we do it.
It's my fault. I apologize to everyone.
Yeah,
in fairness, he's like, you guys aren't funny and you're not interesting. Why are you going to do this? And we're like, challenge accepted.
I spent an hour trying to talk you guys up. No, listen, don't do that.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You're not interesting.
He said Doug is an idiot, and he doesn't need to be listened to by anybody.
Hey, but we make up for it by having amazingly interesting and cool guests.
That's all
like
you
yourself.
need, right? That's all you need.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So you've been writing for a long, long time then. So what kind of changes have you seen in the publishing world and in books?
So in 2009, when I released Dying Days, which was my first zombie book, there was literally like 16 zombie books on Amazon. You know, we had just started ebooks, the technology and everything else there. And, you know, me and a couple other people were throwing up books, and we were selling a ton of books because there was no. And now it's like 20 books every second gets popped in, you know, in just a zombie, for instance. So it was the Wild West, man. You just threw stuff up at the wall and it all sold because people love this new technology. You know, you had that one half that said, no, this is stupid. And I have my paperback books and none of this is ever going to work. And if you're self-publishing, you know, it's like working with a vanity press and, you know, you're not a real writer. And these are books that no publisher in their right mind would take. And, you know, you had a lot of the negatives and all that stuff. But a lot of us made a lot of money, you know, and you go, oh, this is the wave. I'm just going to ride this for the next 20 years and be a multi-billionaire. And then all of a sudden everybody jumped in and it really dropped. So it's such a struggle now, as you guys know, And, we've talked about this. It's not, I guess the cliche is, how do you sell your book? Write the next book. It works to a point, but the reality is nobody knows that you have these 2 books or 200 books in my case. Nobody knows they're out there. So the amount of the percentage is so small of people that are actually reading your book. So it's, where do you find those people? Where do you find that first 1,000 readers, right? Where do you do that? And with the tropical authors, it's great as a group. There's, 50 of us, and we're all helping each other and stuff. But then it's also, we're circling the wagons onto us. So somebody has to go over here and over here and over here and pull in new readers, and enough that it's not, oh, I have 1 new reader and I've sold 5 more books this month. I want 10,000 readers to come in and sell 50,000 more books that month. So that's always the challenge, advertising, Facebook ads and Amazon ads and BookBub ads. I mean, that takes up a lot of my daily time. And then they work or they don't, and you get advice and you try something, and today this works, and then tomorrow you don't have a sale and you've spent $400 on an Amazon ad. So there's so much more than the writing. For me, the writing is about 45 minutes a day, maybe an hour a day. And then it's like 10 hours of doing promotion and doing all of this other stuff, and then still trying to enjoy it. That's sometimes the challenge of getting out of bed and going, man, I'm still having fun doing this. I did 6 days a week, 80 hours a week as a retail manager, and I hated every second of it. And now I'm doing 7 days a week and probably 120 hours.
The best job ever.
The best job ever for the most part. My wife has a career. She's super supportive. She's always pushing me, spend the money, do whatever you need to do. You need to go to NINC. How much is it? Just go get it, So that really helps, because while financially I'm making it, we don't need my money. So my money goes back into the business. My money is the trips. My money is all the fun things we get to do. So
can I just say that wives are great for that? I think all 3 of us have very supportive wives.
You don't get that a lot. You don't.
You don't
see that a lot.
We are blessed by that. I know that Cheryl and Ashley, and they put up with a lot.
It's interesting. I was having dinner with some lovely people the other evening, and one of the ladies is in my beta reading group, and we were talking about, the other people didn't know what I did, and she brought it up. One of the misconceptions about being an author is what time is spent on what, right? And I don't think it matters. I mean, if you're John Grisham, it's different. But there is only a handful of people at that level these days. And even if you're traditionally published versus indie, but especially if you're indie, it is by far the majority of your time. It's more than 50% for everybody, I think, you're spending on the business side of things rather than the writing and creative side of things. And switching gears from that purely creative, to partially creative in the advertising world, when you're doing graphics and creative and that kind of thing. When I talk about creative there, I mean, the visual elements and writing blurbs, but it's a whole different mindset. And then you get into the analytics of the ads, and you've got to completely switch gears into this number crunching, mechanical kind of evaluation process. That's the side that's far more challenging. I think, someone who could write a mediocre book and markets the shit out of it and does really, really intelligent marketing and is on point is going to sell really well. And someone else who writes the most brilliant book in the world, who has no idea what to do marketing wise, no one's ever going to get to read that.
I'm a little bit of both of a best of both worlds. I write mediocre books and I'm terrible at marketing.
You're consistent, at least you're consistent. Yeah.
I'm consistently, but
yeah, you know where your assets are.
There we are, yeah, yes.
But I think Armand, you're such a prolific writer. It blows my mind every time we talk to you about it. Because that word count that you do a year, that's a lot of words to put down. I was doing the math as you were saying it. It's like, okay, I'm putting out 4 books plus some extras. That's probably 70, 140. I'm doing about 60% of the word count. But you do it so much faster. I mean, you're writing for an hour a day and then spending all the rest on the marketing. Hell, when I'm writing, I'm 4 or 5 hours a day of the writing, and then I can switch over to the 4 or 5 hours of marketing.
I do a thing that the Mondo Method podcast, the name comes from the Mondo method, it was kind of a joke. So Jonathan Maybury, the author, he writes for 45, top of the hour for 45 minutes. And then that last 15 minutes, he does Facebook, he goes get a cup of coffee, goes to the bathroom, whatever he's got to do. And then the top of the next hour, he's writing again. Well, Jonathan's been doing this for a long time. Jonathan's also making a crap load of money here. And so for him, he's got that focus. And I tried it and I couldn't do it. And then I realized, you know what? I'm writing the bulk of that in that first 15 minutes. I'm writing 600 to 1,000 words, watching the clock and just like stream of consciousness, just get the words out. And so I started doing top of the hour, 15 minutes. So I'm doing 2 or 3 of those a day. That's it. Those 15-minute bursts. On Twitch, I'm on for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but a lot of that time is spent talking with people in the chat, telling stories, doing random things like that. So I try to do those little bursts in that hour, and I'm getting my 600 to 1,000 words that way. But for me, if I sit here for a straight hour and stare at the screen, I'm getting 600 words, and it's like pulling teeth. If I can do that 15 minutes, then I know the next 45 minutes is getting a cup of coffee, doing other things, doing start of the marketing. I have a Post-it note, and it's literally by the half an hour of what I have to accomplish today. And it's the only way for me. I need that visual in front of me, or it doesn't know. I have a board with every project that is due, every project that I want to do, my calendar of every month, what is my new release. And I need that in front of me in order to do that. And so for me, if I don't get something done on this Post-it note today, tomorrow's Post-it note, that's got to be one of the first things I'm going to do. And whether it's, interview with you guys today, okay, so I get to cross that one off. And it's at the end of the day, my wife comes home and sometimes I'm like, hey, finish the Post-it note, or heading, somebody called or something happened or, life happens and gets in the way. The internet goes out, whatever. So I'm constantly working on that, but that's really the only way I can do it. But it actually lines up for me perfect that I'll start the next 6-book series, and the first one isn't due until April of next year. So, and I already got, me and author Tom Duffy wrote a heist trilogy, Johnny Bell heist thrillers, and those are already done, and it's December, January, and February. We're going to do rapid release on the trilogy. And so I'm already ahead of the game. I'm writing Dirty Deeds 12. 11 came out today. 12 comes out in March, and that'll be the last book in the series. And then I'll start this brand new series, Down and Dirty, which will be 6 books. But I'll write the first book in November, which will be, which is, again, it lined up. If it didn't line up, because I got a couple of other things I got to do in the next couple of weeks before November hits. So it just works out perfect.
And your Dirty Deeds, which comes out today, so it will have been out by the time the show comes out, it will have been out a couple of weeks. That's 11. When did you start that series? It wasn't that long ago. You've put out 11 in a short amount of time.
2015, I wrote the first one.
Oh, okay. It's longer than I thought.
So I was actually writing a horror book called Killing is My Business and Business is Good. And it was about a guy who kills children and then has to live with that. And it was really dark. And I wrote like maybe 5,000 words of it. And I just put it away. And I was like, this is just too much. Amazon at them had Kindle Scout. And they were looking for books for the Kindle Scout program to give you a Kindle Press contract. And they did not want horror, but they wanted mostly romance and thriller. And one day, out of nowhere, I just said, what if this guy's getting paid to kill children, but he doesn't actually kill them? He moves them into a better situation. And he's still, and I thought, you know what, there it is. And I just said, well, the title is way too dark. And then I was like, Dirty Deeds, perfect. Everybody knows AC/DC. It's nice. I use a lot of song titles and lyrics in my stuff. And I wrote that and I got a Kindle contract. And it came out in January 2016. And working with, literally with Amazon was great because they, you put together your own cover. I sent them the cover. They said, you have bullets and you have blood on this cover. No guns, no bullets, no nothing. The algorithm is going to mess with this. So redo the cover. They gave me 15 categories they put my book in. I mean, all kinds of promotion and everything else. And so It was one of, I think, 211 books that actually got a contract out of like tens of thousands that were sent to me.
Yeah, wow. That's great.
And so the money was great. They gave me a really great advance. I made it back really quick. And I was like, I want to do a second book. And they're like, okay, do it. And then next year we'll put it out. And I said, I don't want to put out a book every year, especially the first one ends on a cliffhanger. People are going to kill me. I need that second book. So I didn't sign a contract with them for anything past that. So they still have the first book is still a Kindle press. So I can't do a box set or anything on the series yet until I take it back. But I mean, it's doing great. And the whole series, my sell-through was like 80-something% from book 1 to 10. And, I had a great pre-order on 11. So, but I just decided, at some point, I don't want to do Dirty Deeds 57. I want to do other things in this world. And so that's what I was like, I'm going to do 12 books. I did my First Coast Thriller series last year, which was 6 books. And that was Shakedown was the first book. So I decided to take characters from both of those series, which is in the same world, and do Down and Dirty, combining and do a 6-book series with their serial killers in this one, and then go forward. And a lot of readers are saying, well, James Gaffney from the Dirty Deeds books, we love that character, but you start him like in his, the end of his career, like in his 40s, and you've hinted at other little, things he's done in his past. So the idea maybe in 2 years would be to do a 6-book prequel of how he got into the business and all of that. So like you, Nick, I'm like 18 months ahead right now of these are the books I'm writing, and this is kind of my schedule, and I know what's going to happen.
Well, hey, let's do our wheel so you can do our spin our wheel, get you a question.
We've mixed it up. We've, see, it really exists. And we've got some new questions we've added on there, a few.
Get the sound
effect too.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's very fancy. All right. So we're going to go with, what was your first concert that you ever saw?
You're a metalhead, right?
I'm a metalhead.
Yeah.
My first concert, I was 14 years old. And there's a place I grew up in New Jersey. So tons of great venues and everything else. 14, my cousin, she snuck me into, because I was only 14, it was a 21 and over, and at the Fountain Casino, Aberdeen, New Jersey, 3 bands on the bill. The opening band was Anthrax, before they even had anything out. The second was, I think, the 4th or 5th show of Metallica with Kirk Hammett playing.
What?
And Twisted Sister headlined. When they had just had their first album.
Oh, so Twisted Sister was the headliner and Metallica was the opener.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah.
Twisted Sister was the and everybody was there for Twisted Sister. They were huge back then. That was before the big album and MTV videos and all that.
Armand, this has been brilliant. It's always great chatting with you.
Hopefully I'll see you guys before Nick next year. If you guys are ever down here, if wherever you're going to be, Nick, or wherever in Memphis again.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks again for all your help getting us started.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Armand's such a cool cat, huh?
Oh, man, he's the best. Whenever I get rid of you as a podcast host, I think I'm going to reach out to him.
I would if I were you.
Probably should. No, he's great.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. So thanks for coming on, Armand.
You're not in danger. My wife already thinks that you and I talk too much, so she probably wouldn't,
We have a thing. We have a thing going on. Well, speaking of your wife, what's exciting in your world?
Well, my wife is always exciting in my world, but
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fabulous. No, it's kind of autumny here, so I know you get the autumn there, but it's really autumn here, and it kind of sucks. Kind of getting cold, so we're doing Halloween stuff with the grandkids and fun things. My grandson Atlas, who is just a little over a year old now, he's a hoot. He has this new thing where he wags his eyebrows at you.
Oh yeah.
If you ask him a question, he'll shake his head, but he wags his eyebrows at the same time. It's hilarious. So,
hey, what are you going to dress him up as Halloween? He's got to go with a globe on top of his head, surely. His name's Atlas.
Well, He should. I don't know what they're doing. I don't get to dress him up as anything. It's his mama that to do that. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully they'll do something fun, and I think they'll probably come and we'll do a Zoo Boo, which my wife works at the zoo. They do a big thing there, and
Zoo Boo for Halloween. That's pretty cool. Zoo Boo.
Yeah, you go walk around and get some candy and dress up. It's just a lot of fun. So
cool.
But yeah, it's kind of it's kind of quiet. I'm just finishing up my book, and so how about you, sir? What are you up to?
I have, let's see, when this airs, Losing Summer will have just come out, which is we're recording this. It's next week. So the 24th of October, it comes out. Really excited for the release. Oh, it's perfect. I timed it that way just to give her a present.
Timed it. That's perfect.
Tell her I am releasing a book that day in her honor.
And then I'm reading Losing Summer right now, and it is, I think, my favorite Nora so far. I mean, all your Nora books, I like Nora a lot, but this one I'm enjoying a lot. I'm just...
she's a cool character to write. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. So thank you. Yeah, the beta reads and stuff on it have been very, very generous. So I'm hoping for great things. Hopefully the audience will like it just as much. So we'll be leaving Florida here after this weekend. I'm actually going to the Homestead NASCAR race to see some old friends of mine. If you don't know, I used to work in auto racing for most of my life up until a few years ago when I dropped out, like kids do, and became a writer. But yeah,
enough with this. Cool. Enough. Running around the world, driving fast cars. I want to.
Well, my driving fast car days are long gone, but I was working for other people that drove fast cars. But anyway, I'm going to go to Homestead and spend the weekend there and see some of the old friends, which I'm looking forward to. And then we continue driving 2,800 miles to Newport Beach, California, where we're going to spend base ourselves for the winter.
That's like your own Cannonball Run, like across country, isn't it?
Yeah, in an RV. Yeah,
an RV. Huh.
So I don't know. I'm sort of looking forward to it and sort of not. We're going to do it in 10 days. So it's 280 miles a day, but I've got to be working. Cheryl works 5 days a week, so she'll be in the passenger seat with a little desk set up, bounced down the road on a cell internet. Oh, we got Starlink internet. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, you did.
I did. Yeah, I told you. I'm telling everybody else now.
I tell the rest of the world.
Yes. So I've got this little aerial thing and Starlink internet. So far, it's been bloody good. I'm quite impressed. So I didn't get the $2,500 hardware version that you can strap to the roof and use going down the road. We got the $700 version, which you have to be stopped to set it up. But yeah, I'm excited.
You can't duct tape it to the roof anyway?
I might try. Yeah, because what's the worst thing that happens? $700 worth of equipment flies off the roof and hits our Jeep being towed behind. That would be
wait, you could drop the top on the Jeep, put it in the Jeep, and then run the cable up to the front.
I could, yeah. But it has to have a line of sight. That doesn't sound
like it would be a bad problem at all.
So anyway, we're looking forward to seeing how that works when we stop everywhere across the country. And I'm sure it will be interesting. I mean, we're going across the 10, but we'll get to experience all kinds of weather and autumny stuff in different degrees as we go across. So that's going to be pretty interesting.
That'd be cool, yeah. I mean, it's a fun drive. It still stays kind of south, too. So
yeah.
You're going to be driving right past?
Yeah, a bit south of you. If I was coming further north, I would come by and say hello.
The 10 runs right past my boat, so...
Yeah, go down to your boat.
Go down to the boat and hang out with you, so...
Yeah, if you go to the boat, I promise we'll see it. Who's next on the show? Who is next?
Next week, we have an awesome lady, Bonnie Paulson, who has written, like, a bunch of different... I mean, they're like pen names. She's got a lot of different names, and she's also this... marketing whiz, but she's also hilarious. I think she's gonna be fun.
We met her at Ning.
Yeah, we met her at Ning,
and actually I introduced her for one of her talks that she did. So that opened the conversation, and she's a ball of energy, lovely lady.
Yeah, she was a lot of fun. As soon as we heard her, I was like, oh, we got to get her on the show. She'll be a blast. So.
Cool. So look forward to that. And thanks again to Armand. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. And remember to subscribe to the show. Give us a review, hopefully a 5-star one, if you wouldn't mind.
Please. And also, make sure you check in our show notes where you can get links to Armand stuff, links to our stuff. Maybe we can link some stuff about DB Cooper in there and we can educate everybody. But it's got a lot of neat stuff, and look for more information on our guests. And we'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Until then, be cool to each other.
fair winds and following seas.
You've been listening to the Two Authors Chat Show with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt.